The video cut off because I reached the gigabyte limit. I was saying that besides the video in the Mormon Perspective playlist, which leads to the Saints Unscripted channel, that in that channel there is a video that replies to charges that the Mormon Church is a cult, and I I recommend that you watch that video. It's a very good video, but my case against the idea that the Mormon Church is a cult is that they respect Article 18 of the Declaration of Human Rights, which Jehovah's Witnesses do not. Cookies. That's what a Mormon missionary told me. Look, that's not the behavior of a cult. Okay. Yeah. I have differences with the Mormon Church on the issue of what is allowed and not, as far as homosexual sexual activity. Okay, I have a difference of viewpoint with the Mormon Church on that. And of course, the politics. There is political differences. Like I said in the previous part 1 video or whatever, Mitt Romney and I do not travel in the same political circles, right? And yeah, conservative republicanism is not compatible with dissident Marxism. So, or not maybe, I don't know, at some point, maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, I have some political, and I was told by the Mormon missionaries that the Mormon Church does not mix politics and religion. So apparently, there is no such thing as the Christian neutrality rule in the Mormons, right? So Mormons are encouraged to participate, right? But the church doesn't tell them who to vote for. But I mean, the reality is that the majority of Mormons are Republicans or conservatives, or in Sweden, moderates or Christian Democrats. So, and that's cool. I respect that. I understand. There are many neoconservatives are in there. Cool. I respect people who are neoconservative. They have the right. They have a right under Article 19 to express their viewpoint. Just like I have a right under Article 19 to express my viewpoint. So yeah. But I mean, if I were to attend a Mormon meeting, I would never ever talk about politics, because I believe in a strict separation of politics and theology. So in an ecclesiological context, I never, absolutely never will talk about politics. No. In an ecclesiological context. Just like in a political context, I would never talk about theology. No, I will not do that, because talk about theology is incompatible with the type of discussion that needs to happen in context of a political setup. So I keep these two things strictly separate. Okay, so I would never ever promote dissident Marxism among the Mormon congregation or something like that. That would never happen. I would never do that, or promote my views, which are controversial, on the issue of whether or not fellatio is allowed by the Bible, which the Mormons clearly say no, because it said so. They're not into it. They're not into that at all. So, yeah, you can be gay, but you cannot act on it, right? I mean, I'll respect the rules, because I understand. I understand that a church. I understand a church is a church. And there has to be, in a church, obviously there is always going to be a limit of tolerance as far as heretics are concerned. I understand that. So I'm not gonna force them to accept things that they consider to be contrary to their values. I would never do that. But on the other hand, I would ask that my political views and my views on sexuality are respected. And I would, and my policy is, of course, don't ask, don't tell. I would never talk about my personal sex life with people in the congregation, assuming I had a personal sex life, which in this year I did have one, but that's something to not. I've decided not to talk about that. I made a video talking about that, and I deleted it because I don't think it's relevant. Yeah, but look, the Book of Mormon. Okay, the issue with the Book of Mormon that I want to talk about concerns historicity. Okay, and the historicity, and for the narrative of the Book of Mormon to work, the premise of it is that some of the lost tribes of Israel emigrated from the Middle East to the South America, or to the Americas, right? That there was a transoceanic voyage from, Eurasia to South America, or whatever, supposedly South America, or whatever it is in the Americas, that they settled. As to what was the relationship of these groups, these lost tribes, with the Incas. I rather not dwell on that. I rather not ask. I won't go in. I've looked at the issue of the Incas from a different perspective, from the perspective of historical materialism. The Incas are classified as a version of the Asiatic mode of production. Okay, but that's a separate set of issues. That's a political historiography. It doesn't concern theological historiography. But okay, the theological historiography here. What was the relationship of these people with the Incas? Assuming that they arrived in South America, assuming that they arrived more in Central America, what was their relationship with the Maya? And if they arrived somewhere in Mesoamerica, what was their relationship with the Aztecs? Okay, those things need to be defined, I think, by Mormon historiographers. Another issue is, implicit in the Mormon narrative, historiographical narrative, that is necessary for the Book of Mormon to work. Is the idea of Pre-Columbian Transoceanic contact theories, right? And the Mormon premise that these lost tribes migrated transoceanically towards somewhere in the Americas implies a theory of Pre-Columbian Transoceanic contact, right? And yeah. Okay, and I'm just going to say what Wikipedia has to say about this. Pre-Columbian transoceanic contact theories are speculative theories which propose that possible visits to the Americas, possible interactions with the indigenous peoples of the Americas, or both, were made by people from Africa, Asia, Europe, or Oceania prior to Christopher Columbus's first voyage to the Caribbean in 1492. Okay? There is a growing body of evidence indicating that the earliest human migrations to the Americas may have been made by sea voyages contemporary with and possibly predating land migrations over the Beringia land bridge. Okay, so that right there would lend credibility to this idea that, members of the lost tribes of Israel, migrated transoceanically down to like South, Central, or Mesoamerica, whatever the setting was. And there is a growing body of evidence indicating that the earliest human migrations to the Americas may have been made by sea voyages. Okay, contemporary with and possibly predating land migrations over the Beringia land bridge. That helps the Mormon case. That's good. Because that implicit in believing in the Book of Mormon is agreement with Pre-Columbian Transoceanic contact theory, right? Which, by the way, Pre-Columbian Transoceanic contact theories are shunned by the historiographical establishment. It says here, only a few cases of Pre-Columbian contact are widely accepted by mainstream scientists and scholars. Mainstream scientists and scholars, validity to them, but okay. The so-called mainstream, the historiographical establishment is a mixture of, subjectivity and objectivity in their narrative constructs. Okay, it's not entirely objective. Like it says here, mainstream scientists and scholars, making it look like somehow this is like an authoritative, body or whatever. No, these people cannot escape their own subjectivity. And okay, scientists, in archaeology there's some science involved. That's impossible. Population genetics clearly demonstrate that is impossible. So right, okay, there's science in it. There's and according to this mainstream scientists and scholars, which I call them the historiographical establishment. Okay, so according to the historiographical establishment, pre-Columbian transoceanic contact theories are in the same position as Holocaust denial, creationism, Noah's flood, Adam and Eve, 9/11 truth. Right? They classify pre-Columbian transoceanic contact theories with that blob of people, and that's what they do, right? Sort of like the body of historiographical alternative facts that are shunned, right, and not looked at and considered to be, not real history or whatever, because the cabal of mainstream scientists and scholars say so. Okay, whatever. Again, a lot of these people cannot escape their own subjectivity, and yeah, a lot of what the historiographical establishment says is based on science, but there is a lot of subjectivity in it too, and they need to admit to it. And you know what, Howard? That's what I like Howard Zinn, because Howard Zinn is a historian who took the mask off and admitted, to the subjectivity in historiographical narrative construction. When he said these oppressed groups, women, LGBT people, blacks, Native Americans, Mexicans, are excluded from the official history. So their experiences are excluded from the official history. Hence, it is necessary to have women's studies, LGBT studies, African American studies, Mexican American studies, Asian American studies. All these studies are necessary so that the historical experience of these groups can be brought into and included into the historiographical narrative, which before the historiographical establishment, excluded these groups and only talked about white men. So, again, when the Wikipedia article, when they talk about, whatever, the mainstream scientists and scholars, whatever. Those mainstream scientists and scholars in a previous period, before Howard Zinn came along and straightened things out, those people used to exclude women, blacks, gays, Mexicans, Indians out of the historical narrative, right? Because only white men counted. So, whatever. Anyways, yeah, right. Anyways, according to the historiographical establishment, maritime explorations by Norse peoples from Scandinavia during the late 10th century led to the Norse colonization of Greenland and Leansk meadows in Newfoundland, which preceded Columbus' arrival in the Americas by some 500 years. That is the only accepted pre-Columbian transoceanic contact that is accepted by establishment historiography. Only that. When the Norse came and founded Beanland, right? Beanland, they called it, whatever. And did these people have contact with the Native Americans? There is people who say so. There is people who say that the Norse had contact with the Native Americans. That the Norse actually explored further south and met, native people or whatever. I've seen theories like that, or that whole thing about that rune stone that somebody found in a farm somewhere in the Midwest in the United States or whatever. They found a rune stone in a farm or something. That is a national. I've heard that's a nationalistic conspiracy theory, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, there is no way to know if these Norse people that are acknowledged to have arrived in the Americas in the 10th century, that they didn't have contact with the Native Americans. There is no way to know. You can't prove it or disprove it, right? They could have. I don't know. And I've heard other much more wilder stories. I heard a story, and somebody posted a picture of this on the internet, a painting or whatever, which shows that the Romans were in North America at one point and had contact with the native people, the Romans. I think that's far-fetched, weird. But somebody put a picture on it on the internet, and it shows a Roman centurion leading a platoon of Indians or whatever. I think it's weird. That's wild. That's a wild, crazy theory. But yeah. So, right. Yeah, Norse colonization of the Americas. Yeah. 10th century lasted until the mid 15th century. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently there was a, they had parliament assemblies, and even a bishop was posted at a place called Gardar. And yeah, and then there is some remains of a Norse settlement in Newfoundland and all these things. So yeah, apparently that's the only acceptable. Mm. Let's see, claims of European contact, because that is what concerns us here. Because, well, not European exactly, but these lost tribes, these Lamanite people or whatever, and the other one, they came down from the Middle East to the Americas, right? So, yeah, claims of ancient Roman contact. Evidence of contacts with the civilizations of classical antiquity, primarily with the Roman Empire, but sometimes also with other contemporaneous cultures, have been based on isolated archaeological finds in American sites that originated in the Old World. So, yeah, like they found some jars in Brazil that resemble Roman amphorae, for example. Yeah. Let's see, what else they have found. Right. Yeah. Allegedly, there were some ancient Roman artifacts were discovered in supposedly ship remains of shipwrecks on American shores or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know. In 1950, an Italian botanist, Domenico Casella, suggested that a depiction of a pineapple, a fruit native to the New World tropics, was represented along wall paintings of Mediterranean fruits at Pompeii. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so that's the Roman thing. I don't know. I think the Roman thing is a little bit far fetched. I'm not sure about the Roman stuff. I think this rune stone that somebody found on a farm in Minnesota or something is more credible than a Roman centurion leading a platoon of Indians. I don't know, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know. 14th and 15th century European contact. Yeah. I heard that there was a group of Irish monks that made it to the that sailed west and never were heard of again. Supposedly these monks came into the Americas, and that they were using Norse maps or whatever. That's one I heard. Another one I heard is that the lost treasure of the Knights Templar, right? That right before the Knights Templar were gonna be all arrested and executed, and right before the French king could get his hold on the Templar's treasure. I mean, when the French king came to seize the treasure of the Templars, the storehouses were empty because the Templars took away the treasure and put it on ships, right? Supposedly like 10 or 15 ships, whatever. And supposedly this fleet of ships sailed west and was never heard of again. So apparently there is a theory that the Templar treasure made it to the Americas and is hidden somewhere, buried somewhere or whatever. That's another weird far-fetched theory, but I don't know. I don't know. I find that could be credible. That could be credible. I mean, that could be credible. I mean, that's kind of like the same as these lost tribes of Israel migrating into the Americas, and founding the civilization that Jesus visited when in the Book of Mormon it says that Jesus visited the Americas. So that would have been right. Whatever. Yeah. So. Yeah. Some have conjectured that Columbus was able to persuade the Catholic monarchs of Castile and Aragon to support his planned voyage only because they were aware of some recent earlier voyage across the Atlantic. Okay? I've heard that Columbus had maps, that Columbus knew more than that what was apparent. That Columbus knew all where he was going. That Columbus knew that he had maps. That same as this this rumor about the Irish monks that had Norse maps. I'm not sure that Columbus had Norse maps, but he had a map. He knew something. He knew something because he was very certain about sailing westward. He insisted on it, you know, as opposed to the Portuguese who were sailing, down from Africa. They would go down to the southern tip of Africa, then go up on the Indian Ocean, and then reach the East Indies that way. Columbus was very certain and very sure that he could do it going westward. You know, and the thing is that he believed that the Earth is round, right? Which back in the 1490s was a radical belief or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Right. European contact. I don't know. Yeah, The historical record shows that Basque fishermen were present in Newfoundland and Labrador from at least 1517 onward. Yeah. Therefore predating all recorded European settlements in the region except those of the North. But by 1517, I mean, the cat was out of the bag. Everybody knew where America was, so that's kind of late. It would have to have been before 1492 to be interesting. In 1925, Soren Larsen wrote a book claiming that a joint Danish-Portuguese expedition landed in Newfoundland or Labrador in 1473 and again in 1476. And yeah, a Danish-Portuguese expedition. Interesting. Yeah, nothing beyond circumstantial evidence has been found to support Larsen's claims. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, So yeah, I mean, these are like theories and stuff. But again, like I said before, unfortunately, this historiographical establishment, to them, these Pre-Columbian contact, including, the Mormon version of it, is, anathema or whatever, is considered they put it in the same category as, as I said, Holocaust denial, 9/11 truth, creationism, Noah's flood, historicity of Adam and Eve, like that. So, yeah. So that's a challenge for the Mormons. The historicity issue is the Pre-Columbian contact historicity issue is a challenge for the Mormons. But yeah. Look, I choose to subscribe. I will say this. Look, let's look at the whole plethora of forbidden history, right? That we're not allowed to look at according to the historiographical establishment. We're not allowed to look at that history, right? Or it's not history, hypothetical histories or whatever, which exist underground as rumor and whispers, right? Okay, these rumors and these whispers of alternative historiographies that are forbidden historiography. Let's look at them. Adam and Eve. I don't agree with the existence of Adam and Eve. On that one, I go with the population genetics is pretty clear. Noah's flood, please. Noah's flood. I mean, Noah's flood is impossible because, again, there are not enough water particles on Earth to cover, the entire surface of the planet as that Noah's flood, account, attests, and also there's the problem of the animals, how did the kangaroos get to Australia, for example, how did the llama get to Peru, like there's a lot of problems with the Noah's Ark story. How can a structure smaller than the Titanic accommodate all these animals or whatever? There's a lot of problems with the story of Noah's Ark. A lot of problems, and again, the devil is in the details. When you start looking at the details, the Noah's Ark story falls apart. And that's one. When I did the videos on what do Jehovah's Witnesses believe, in there I said, I did the retraction on the rainbow argument, because when I was in the ex-gay ministry, one thing we used to say is like, we want to reclaim the rainbow for God because the homosexuals have hijacked it. You know, the rainbow was a symbol of Noah's covenant with God, and the homosexuals have turned it into a symbol of sodomy. So we've got to reclaim our rainbow. You know, whatever. There was no covenant between God and Noah because Noah never existed, and there was no flood. You know, so like I said in that video, the homosexuals, the LGBT community can have the flag. You know, they can have it. Let them keep their flag. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. So those two are on that one. I'm not into it. On creationism, I don't know. I've yet to think about intelligent design. I need to discuss the issue. I want to discuss that issue with the Mormon missionaries at some point. The whole issue of intelligent design, and I need to look at what the pamphlet, the Jehovah's Witness pamphlet, was it created. I've looked at what Lloyd Evans has to say about it. Intelligent design. I'm moving towards the direction of I'm moving towards the direction of evolution. I'm moving away from intelligent design. I mean, it's just not tenable. It's just not. And again, a non-existent creator would be greater than an existent one. A creator that does not require existence is greater. So the true God does not exist. Where the